But in terms of your son, do you plan?
Um, I've got him into this school down the road from Ibstock. It's a Froebel school. It's a very kind of freewheeling and interesting and keeps him alive to all sorts of things. For example, I mean, I think that he now, he's 5 in January, in his 5 years is much freer and has more expression and more of himself than ever I had in 10 years, in 15 years. I should think even in my, I'm what, 37 now, in my 37 years I haven't travelled all that much more than he has anyway, which is, you know.
But where from there? I mean, how do you want him to grow up? What do you do about discipline, for example, yourself? He's at the school during the day, but at home, does it vary from what it's like at the school?
I don't know. I keep a firm hand on certain things, like, you know, like what I like is a balance of overt behavior, shouting, what have you, and a bit of control as well, and he seems to have that, not just because he's my son, but he seems to have that, which I find through me seems to be all right. I mean, when he gets bigger, and I'll just have to keep in shape.
Okay, let's hold that reel there, and I'd like to do one more if I could. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially juvenile delinquent kids or kids who've fallen off the rails for some reason. Lay it to the fact that parents haven't had enough time. No matter what school has done, the parents haven't had enough time for the kids. And hence you get your kid trying LSD, trying it, you know, without having in any way beforehand been advised by parents, or in fact, if the parents are too strict, going directly against it. Have you sort of planned things so you're going to be able to spend some time with your kids in the future?
Mm.
And how do you spend that time when you're with them?
Well, this last year, because I haven't worked, I spend quite a bit of time, you know, with them, relatively. When I was away filming, because I did a lot of work over about a 4 or 5 year period, I always took them with me on location for a part of the time at least. Not at the beginning, because then, you know, I'm impossible with anybody anyway, so it would be a mistake then.
Was it good for them or bad for them on the whole?
Oh, I think it's good for them. I mean, for example, the only gauge one has is yourself and what you went through or what you didn't go through. I mean, for example, in my own childhood, my father went to work at 9 in the morning and came back at 9 or 10 at night every day except Sunday. Therefore, Saturday finished at 1, then Saturday afternoon he would go to the football match to get some air, because where he worked was Naphtha and the rubber mill. And Sunday he spent in bed, so that he'd be fit for Monday. So he didn't spend a great deal of time with me. My mother worked as well, so that set the pattern for me, so I went to work when I was 9. You know, so I mean, I'm aware of that side of it. So it took a bit of realizing on my part to, because that was the norm for me. I never thought that you had to have any sort of exchange or sort of rapport with children, but this sort of, I realized that you do.
There's a funny sort of thing going on now, though, where people, now you talk about coming out of the Navy with ulcers at 18 and a half or 19, and people are dying like flies with coronaries, and people are getting ulcers. But this father of yours who worked in Naphtha and had to stay all Sunday in bed to be fit to go back, he's still alive. Yeah. And in fact, your grandfather's still alive, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Well, how is it? It doesn't seem to make sense in terms of all we've got going for us now.
I think it's a different gauge of living too. You know, I mean, the thing is it's determined up there where they were. I mean, like my grandfather still lives with my grandfather and grandmother are still alive, and they live with my mother and father in Edinburgh. But I remember my great-grandfather very well, who used to go for runs at 80, and he's 90-something when he died. But because the sort of it's something to do with the extremity in the far north, I think, that determines everything. You know, it's the weather and the economics. And then you start talking about people.
Weather, economic, and then people.
Yeah. And I think that's the score.
And
They're
the weather
very-
and the economics are both bad, aren't they?
Well, for the majority, yeah. I mean, every time anything happens in this country, it affects Scotland most, and Wales second, and then England. And well, a bit of Ireland too.
I know you're not particularly interested in politics, but how do you feel about the Scottish Nationalist Party?
Oh, I think it's anything that provokes discussion about Scotland and the situation there, that will get through some of that sort of granite, is good. It can't do any harm at all.